What I'm hoping to achieve in this talk today is to get you, if you aren't already loving what you're doing or loving what you're studying, is to hopefully inspire you to follow the path of love, to follow the path of meaningful work which starts and ends with love. Now, like many of you, my journey didn't really start on the path of love, and that's why I'm so passionate about it. When I entered college, I wasn't really thinking about love per se. I mean, I was, but not in the work domain. I was thinking about, my future. What's gonna bring me a decent pay? What's gonna look good on my resume? What's gonna impress the girls or other people or my parents? In retrospect, I really do wish I would have spent more time thinking about these kinds of questions. What lights my fire? What gets my creative juices flowing? And what would I want to spend my time doing, regardless of how much it pays me or what other people think? If I didn't have to worry about money, if I had $1 billion in the bank, what would I spend my time doing? I wish I would have spent more time asking these questions of myself when I was 18 years old. I went down the path of practicality. Now, it doesn't have to be an either or. I didn't realize this at the time, but it doesn't have to be like I can follow my passion or I can go down the path of practicality. It is possible to have multiple tracks. You can have a job, you can pay the bills, you can, fulfill some of your economic needs, but you can also pursue a passion on the side. As time went on, my passions started to fade. They started to go out of the picture for a variety of reasons, right? Like, I got to start focusing on my job. I got married. I got more financial responsibilities. I don't have time for my hobbies. I better get focused on my career. And so within a few years, I became a one-track pony. As time went on, as I went down this one-track pony, and I progressed into the corporate world, I started to feel like I was living in a cartoon. Has anyone read Dilbert?
Yes.
I was living in Dilbert world. I took solace in Dilbert. It was my therapy because there was so much stuff that was dysfunctional in the workplace. Dilbert was a place where I could go and say, I'm not the only one suffering. Everyone's suffering. Otherwise, how could Dilbert exist? From an income perspective, I was doing pretty good. Year over year, I was making more money. Mo money, mo money, mo money. I should have had no complaints. But if you looked at the history of how fulfilled I was in my career, it was a very different story. Started off pretty good. I remember that first day of work, I'm like, wow, I'm getting paid to go to the bathroom. I had a salary. It felt pretty good, but pretty soon the honeymoon, was over. And then over time, my soul started to die, slow death. And then I got this boss who made me feel miserable. Wanted to jump off a cliff. I was depressed. It sucked. But I was making pretty good money. I had a nice car, had a nice house, but I was freaking miserable. So if you look at the trend, economically, I was doing real good. I was moving in the right direction. According to Forbes magazine, I was a success. But inside, I was not feeling too good. The trend here is not going in the right direction. I'm getting less and less fulfilled with time. Luckily for me, at this point in my career, about 6-7 years ago, I decided that I needed to learn something new. My brain was vegetating. I had been in the corporate world too long on one track. And so I decided to enroll into business school. And in one of my first management classes, they introduced us to this concept of informal networks. That organizations have hierarchies, but that's not really how work gets done. It gets done through informal relationships, friendships, trust. And managers often don't take the time to understand what that dynamic looks like, even though that's what's driving what's happening in the organization. like, this is the answer to the Dilbert problem, at least one of them. And this idea kept coming back to me, kept gnawing at me. Maybe you should create something. Why don't you make something that makes this more easy for managers to use? And that's how Keyhubs was born. And it all just started with a little seed in 2006. It felt really good. I felt like I'd finally got my second track back because I had my full-time job, but on the side I was nurturing this cool little idea that I had. It was a little seedling. I didn't know if and when it would turn into anything, but my creative juices started flowing. A fire started to light inside of me because I was working on something that I felt like working on. Even though I wasn't getting paid or I was self-directed, I was doing what I felt like doing. But it was still just a hobby. You know, if you would have told me back then that, oh, your Keyhubs project, that's a cute little hobby, I would have been pretty offended. But in reality, in retrospect, it was a hobby. And it was the most important hobby of my life because I got my second track back. I started to refuel and reflame that passion which had died maybe 12 years earlier. It felt pretty good. I didn't know how it was going to support me or when I was going to switch tracks or if I'd ever switch tracks, but just having another track in my life was really nice. Well, towards the end of 2009, I got another boss who made me feel almost just as miserable. And I was so fed up. I was so incredibly unhappy. I came home one day and I told my wife, I just can't do it. I'm so unhappy. And my wife said, just frickin' quit, man. You look miserable. I'm like, really? She's like, yeah, just be done with it. I mean, you know, you're sick of this. And so my wife, who doesn't work, we got 2 kids and a mortgage. We've got enough money to survive maybe 7 or 8 months. She's like, just be done. You'll find another job. I'm like, awesome. So I went in on Monday and I was like feeling on. I went into my boss's office. I gave him the pink slip. I'm like, I'm out of here. And he's like, have you talked to your wife about this? I'm like, yeah, she told me to do it. And so I owe it to her. And so in that moment, we decided to go full force. And 7 months went by, and we didn't have a dime of revenue. We were about to give up. Because, you know, I was knocking on doors, trying to sell Keyhubs, trying to sell consulting projects. People were real interested in it, but no one wanted to pay me. They're like, who are your customers? I'm like, I don't have any. You want to be one? The first? So we're almost out of money, and we were about to call it quits. And just before we ran out of money, a deal fell from the sky. And that gave us just enough money to go 1 more month. And I'm like, should I start looking for a job? And my wife's like, well, maybe we'll get another deal in a month. I'm like, okay. Just before we were about to run out of money, another deal fell from the sky. We had another month. And we lived like that month to month to month for the next 20 months. It was the most exhilarating thing I've ever done in my life. It was freaky at first. Don't get me wrong. We had some sleepless nights. But you know, there's something to be said about universal providence, you know, the providence of the universe. My faith in the universe and in myself grew more and more with each day. And by 2012, we started to get some serious momentum. We weren't living month to month anymore. We turned a profit, and here we are. It was scary, but somehow the universe, and it wouldn't have been possible without this, without 4 years of dinking around. When I quit my job, it was the first time in 32 years that no one was telling me where to be and what I needed to do. Right? As soon as we enter kindergarten, we're told, you got to be here at this time. You got to do this. You get a job. You got to be here at this time. You got to do this. So when we look at my career history, my fulfillment went off the charts. Even the moment I quit my job, you know, even though, right, it's been better than it's ever been. How do you think my income did after I quit my job? Not so good. Okay, I'm still making way less than I did in the corporate world, but I wouldn't trade it for anything. The best of it is that I'm more fulfilled in my career, in my life, than I've ever been, and it's because I've stumbled upon the 3 pillars of human motivation. Who knows what the pillars of human motivation are? Isn't that sad? that we're in school and we're thinking about our jobs and what we should do with our life, and we don't really know what the pillars of human motivation are? I have 2 kids in school, and I ask them every day, why are you doing what you're doing? Think about it. Your life is precious. You only live once. Live it to the fullest and know why you're living it. That's what I want to drive home today. There's no amount of money that can give you autonomy, mastery, and purpose. That is the most valuable thing you can give yourself in this life. And I'm not the only one who feels it. So there's an HBR, Harvard Business Review blogger, professor, who wanted to find out what are some of the top career regrets of successful people. Fortune 500 CEOs, millionaire entrepreneurs, struggling entrepreneurs, a very diverse cross-section. He sat down with him, he interviewed him, he said, what are your career regrets? And it boiled down to 5 themes, 5 top career regrets. I wish I hadn't taken the job for money. I wish I had quit earlier. I wish I had the confidence to start my own business. I wish I had used my time at school more productively, and I wish I had acted on my career hunches. I wish someone would have told me this when I was 18. Regrets of the dying. You may have heard about this. A nurse, a hospice nurse who helped elderly people transition into death. She interviewed hundreds of these people and asked them, what did you regret about your life? 5 core themes. I wish I had the courage to live a life true to myself, not the life others expected of me. I wish I didn't work so hard. I wish I had the courage to express my feelings. I wish I had stayed in touch with my friends. I wish that I would have let myself be happier. Right? And we're all creative spirits. There's no one who is like any of you. No one, never before, never again in the universe will there be someone like you, or you, or you, or any of you. You're 100% unique in this universe. That means you have something unique to offer that the world could benefit from. The world needs you. We need that creative spirit, and by bringing it forth, you'll be more fulfilled. In order to grow in life, in order to become an effective entrepreneur, you have to create something and then you have to share it with people. And it's this iterative process of creating and sharing and learning from the sharing and creating and learn. And you just keep going, and the longer you stick with it, the better you get at it, and eventually magic happens. When I think about my journey and these other journeys, I think about what are the common themes. I think meaningful work can be centered around 7 words, 7 P's. The 7 P's of purposeful entrepreneurship, 7 P's of meaningful work that's driven by love. Start with the passion and the purpose. Think about what lights your fire. Think about what gives you a sense of meaning. Am I doing something good for the world? Forget about the money. Take all that out. Take out what your expectations are, other people's expectations, what your parents want you to do, what your teacher wants you to do. Go quietly inside and ask yourself, what is this voice calling out for? Then stick with it. That's 80% of the game. It doesn't matter what your idea is. If you're true to yourself and if you honor love, you will be rewarded with priceless profit, joys and satisfaction and fulfillment that no amount of money can buy. And you'll probably make some money too. And that's what I wish for you. Thank you so much. If you ever want to chat, talk, meet, I'd love to meet myself.